but there's like, I also feel like there's a place for all these people who believe whatever they want to believe about Satan.
Right. No, I totally agree with you, but unless they're actually doing magic and communing with these forces, they're just shooting from the hip, and they're just talking shit, or talking to themselves, or both.
Right, and that sometimes that's okay. Like some people just want to be crazy, ineffectual people who never get anything done, and that's your fault, and you're just gonna sit there. You know what I mean? You're just gonna suck.
All right, so let's start this off officially. Are you recording?
I started, yeah.
Safe. Are you on here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Do you know Caligula? Do you know Cal?
Yeah.
You've been introduced. Okay, cool.
Nice.
So let me know when you're recording, so I can introduce everyone, unless everyone wants to introduce themselves.
You can introduce me. That's cool. I'm not like.
Cool. Are you going by Cal or Caligula Loves?
I'm just
Cal
changing my
Story?
name on. Yeah, no, I'm going by Kaligula Loves. I just did that on Facebook for fun.
Okay. So yeah, Cody, just let me know when you're starting to record.
Yeah, let's start. We are right now.
All right.
Let's go.
You want me to go over there? Huh?
Everyone good? You in a good place, Caligula?
No, I'm good right here. So.
Okay. All right. Greetings. This is Serpent Sermons, Goat Scriptures. My name is Joseph Doherty, Tartax Vlies. We have Caligula Loves, a.k.a. Cal Stone, on Facebook. We have Safe, Young Safe, formerly known as Pan. And, of course, we have Cody Strong. This show is going to be geared towards the glorification of Shiva, the glorification of Krishna. So I wanted to ask both of you guys, this question's aimed towards Safe and Caligula Loves. What is the best way that the people can get in touch with Shiva? What is the best way that they can call the Lord into their lives, that they can best embody Shiva?
I always, I always feel like the quickest, fastest way that people can do that is through the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. It's been set up like that, and that mantra is like a initiating mantra. It'll like open up, and it'll become more the more you like practice it.
Excellent.
I can speak for Christians, say the same. In the scriptures it said that the only way to achieve realization in the age of Kali Yuga is through the chanting of Nam, through the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So in accordance with that, in the view of my own sampradaya, I would also say chanting is the best way to connect. And the best way to really know yourself and understand your true self come from chanting the names of Krishna.
Beautiful. Now, I want to say that, well, first I'll start off by, I am not against the Jewish people as a whole, but it has been stated that the Jews believe that Tibet, India, is the abode of Samael. I'll tend to agree with them. I'll own anything that people will throw on me. I'll put on that mask, and I'll take it even further. The true left-hand path is unknown, and I believe that the Hindi faith is the pure, mature spirituality, is the pure left-hand path. Can you speak to Samael, that spirit? Are you familiar with that spirit, Caligula?
I am familiar. It's just there's so many different versions in the occult community. There's so many different versions of that understanding of that spirit and the way that it functions within the whatever Jewish tradition you're following. So I sometimes, it's like when I try to connect India into the mainstream understanding of things, it's like some people connect Shaivism with Nimrod, and I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I've always thought the Tower of Babel was also a metaphor for the like the Kundalini fully awakened being shattered, and humanity falling into like a disarray of being disconnected from their Kundalini. So part of that narrative of trying to, like, okay, well, where can I bring the Jewish narrative into like a continuity with the Hindu stuff? But the further back I went in time, the more I realized that the Jewish faith is a degeneration of Saraswat Brahmins. It's like when the Saraswati River dried up, they all went west. And so like Abraham and Sarah is like a reiteration of this idea of the Brahmins and the barren Sarah River. And it's like this whole teaching that they're giving us is just like a reiteration, a degeneration of the original Brahmin teachings. So it's like here in Kashmir, there was a place where the Jews stayed and they mixed with the Saraswat Brahmins. I mean, they are the Saraswat Brahmins, but they left and came back and established trade routes. So Kashmir is like the key to connecting ancient Shaivism and ancient Judaism as being like a single unified metaphysical entity.
I'm glad that you just made that statement, because it is my belief that the arrival of the Mahdi, the one who will unite all the religions, will unite all the people under one world, universal, true spirituality, what Christians may call the Antichrist, what Satanists would call the Christios, Lucifer, Melech Taus, Shiva. All these things connect. When you do magic and you open gates for natural forces to flow through, it is told that a spirit or a dragon will come through, and his name will be Shiva Yoth. All these things connect. So the spirit of Shiva, the spirit of Lucifer, the liberating spirit of freeing the human being from ignorance is just that. And like you guys said, the best way to connect with the spirit is through the mantras. Can you recite the mantra for me, Kaligula?
So the mantra is like a key, right? The mantra is like it's like a mnemonic device. It has like a syllables that have energy like locked into them, and then that energy itself is connected to each of the chakras. So that the Kundalini Yoga, where they usually give you like the 7 different sounds to activate each of the chakras, well, it already has that in the mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. It's 6 syllables, and it activates each of the chakras in the body. The 7th chakra isn't really like a chakra, it's the culmination of the opening of all of them. So the 6 syllables correspond to the 6 chakras, like the 7 planets, we could even say the archangels, they're devas. So like the 7 devas are in the body, that control the body, that control the chakras, like it is in the mantra. Om Namah Shivaya starts to awaken all of that inside of it. It's like the chakras are being cleansed and opened from within. So there's like this Kundalini buffer, and through this mantra we're like removing the buffer so that we can awaken like the Shiva, which is consciousness from within. Like, and the more we repeat this mantra, the more it's supposed to, the more the mantra is supposed to induce you internally to want to study and practice. So that really is the fruit of the mantra, is to induce you more into this desire, this almost fanatical desire to study and practice more about Lord Shiva.
Beautiful. Om Namah Shivaya. For anyone who didn't catch that, that is awakening the archangels within you. That is awakening the archdevas. So anyone listening to this, get the fuck to work. Like, What is the problem here?
And you can
Excuse
even
me,
like
I'm
go to
a little
Wikipedia
passionate.
and research Om Namah Shivaya, and everything there will lead you to something. So it's like that's part of this mantra, is like getting you into that mood all the time.
Beautiful, beautiful. Aishmodeva, Aishmodeva. So Safe, can you please recite a Krishna mantra? Because I'm feeling it over here. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I'll explain it to you first, and I'll explain it to the viewers from my understanding. So, it's generally accepted that Krishna is non-different from his name. So in Krishna's name, Krishna is present. In some traditions of worship Rama as a main deity, they say that the name of Rama is actually greater than Rama himself. So in my understanding of the Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My understanding is that currently, as we are experiencing this reality, you could look at it as layers of material illusion are in front of you. So eternally you are situated in Kaligula, which is the realm of Krishna, where he performs his pastimes in Radha. But currently these layers of material illusion are blocking us from seeing that we are really already there, and that we're already one with Krishna, already enjoying pastimes with him and living our lives out peacefully there. So what the mantra does is it dispels these layers of illusion. When you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, it's almost like Krishna looks at you, he directs his gaze towards you, and your eyes are locked with Krishna. And this combining of energy, this focus on the Godhead, this focus on the Supreme Self and the Supreme Personality, which is Krishna, it just burns away that material illusion, and it brings you straight to Krishna. And you get to experience him directly. So the thing is, when people are chanting, you may start laughing, you may start crying, you can go mad. It's even said in some scriptures that when Shiva was reciting the name of Rama, he went crazy, he was dancing, It just sends people ecstatic, because it is direct communion with God and the absolute being, which is eternal.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, another subject that I wanted to touch on, now this is completely hypothetical, and for any of the listeners, we cannot be responsible for any information that we present being misinterpreted on your part. So what you do with this information is completely your responsibility. So, the councils of the gods. Now, it's been presented that the Elohim, there's councils of gods, and these offices throughout the aeons change. Territories are given up, and new leaders come in, new influencers come in these new aeons. Whether we're in the Satya Yuga or the Kali Yuga, this is open for interpretation. But Caligula, do you believe that there is councils of gods? And how do they chop up territory? How do they chop up cultures? Who decides who gets what and what time? If you understand the question that I'm posing,
Yeah,
or where I'm trying to lead you.
yeah. A lot of what you're saying is like part of the understanding already found, like in the Puranas and the various Puranas. There's like 18 standard Puranas, but there's so many different types of other works and Puranas and scriptures. One of my favorite is the Bhagavatam from the Hare Krishna sect. It is filled with a lot of information about this kind of stuff. There are a lot of texts explaining, including the Vedic astrology explains more about what the time cycles and who and what and when and where. There's a lot of information already set out about like who gets what. It even says that soon Ali, who's like in this realm is going to come and take over Indra's coast in the next age. So there's all these things that are supposed to be happening. Like the reason why a lot of subterranean entities have power right now is because they're preparing for the transition of Bali coming into prominence in this world as Indra. But that's something that, we're talking about the politics of this world, right? So, I
As
totally
above,
believe in
so
all that.
below.
Right, and I totally believe all of that, and that's why I really get into astrology a lot, and why I'm always like, look, there's a calendar that we use, is already set up by the powers that be. You can tell what kind of territory they have by what kind of time systems they use. You can see the money moving around and the power moving around, and a lot of these things, it's like planetary global power is determined by the timekeeping systems that we use. So the way that they're making us dance according to time, I think that's most important. That's why I'm always like, look at the calendar system that we use, and that will really tell you where we're at. Like that's why the 7 days have a 7 different deities in it, and almost everything that gets done in this world, like you said, as above so below, it is dancing according to the planetary spheres. So as much as people talk about conspiracy theories, at the end of the day, the highest conspiracy theory is the planetary powers, because they rule everything. Like everyone's dancing to this in the world, right? That's why everybody can get somebody's birth chart, and the birth chart will make sense, because it is the planets and the stars that we're truly being controlled by. And then there's powers behind those that are like, it's a hierarchy, and the Hare Krishna do a great job of getting into a hierarchy of all the different beings that go all the way up to Krishna. But in Shaivism, we do it by the tattvas, which is like the elemental consciousness. It's like the qualitative quality, the thisness of consciousness and the layers. So we go inwards, and we go all the way inwards to like the supreme controller of even the devas. And that's why in this form of Shaivism, in Kashmir Shaivism, we're going beyond the matrix of the lights. We're going beyond the planetary powers and the devas and the Asuras, and we're activating like root Shiva power, which is beyond all of this. Because what we're going to do is we're going to ultimately create our own realm, like in our own image, just like Shiva.
Real
Like we're going
quick,
to become just like Brahman.
Cal, for those who don't know, who is Indra, what planet is real, and who is Bali?
Oh, so yeah, Indra's supposed to be like the king of the gods. He's supposed to be cognate with like Zeus and
Yeah.
Odin. And Bali is like it's a little bit more complicated of a question. Bali is supposed to be like this ruler of a previous age who ruled the whole world, and he willingly gave up his kingdom to Krishna through some kind of like bet, like some kind of like deception, where Krishna's like, if you really love me, look at me this, and he's like, all right, I'll give it to you, and he's like, ha, and then he tricks him, and he takes over the whole world back, but he's like, you know what, I love you, so I'm going to send you down to hell, but in the next stage, I'm going to give you this whole world back, as like Indra. So, it's like, I'm really destroying that myth, but if you get into the whole Bali and Indra myth, the more you get into it, you'll understand that these, like at one point, Bali becomes so powerful that he overtakes all the gods, all the positions, and he becomes ruler, like, of the three worlds. And that's why he gives it back to Krishna. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm going to wait it out, but then all of this is going to be mine one day, because I have the merit for it.
I wanted to state that in the primal craft tradition, the trident, the three cross staves, are Belial, Lucifer, and the dark goddess. You can call her Kali, Ma, you can call her Hecate, but you made an excellent observation that Atlantis, the modern day Atlantis, is the United States of America. The trident is ruled, Atlantis is ruled by these three deities, Lucifer, Belial, and the dark goddess. Now, the names are interchangeable. Whether you want to call them devas, whether you want to call Lucifer Krishna, all these things are, to me, they line up, and they are the ruling beings in the modern world. Can you go a little bit further on where you got the information that the United States of America is the modern day Atlantis?
Me? Oh.
Because I agree with you. Yeah.
You know, I was saying that it was just like an ancient, like it was a reimagination of Atlantis. Okay, I was saying that the Renaissance was a group of an invisible college. So here in Europe, in England, Sir Francis Bacon and the Invisible College were putting forward this idea of the new Atlantis, and it was like this dream that they were dreaming up together in recreating what they understood about Atlantis through the newly rediscovered texts that had just come into Europe. So it was like they were reading these texts, and they were like, wow, Atlantis was like this. And they're like, okay, well, we imagine now a new society, a new world, and we're going to build it in the new world. And so, like, that was their dream. And so they've been trying to get that dream into this world here since that time, since, like, they got a hold of that information.
I remember reading something about that, about our founding fathers, the framers, the original true Freemasons, before the Masonic tradition was co-opted by the Jews and essentially got geared towards communism. Benjamin Franklin was in the Hellfire Club, and Thomas Paine, the enlightened and the Enlightenment era thinkers, the Luciferian thinkers. I do remember, like, when I looked into history, they were trying to make another Atlantis, or make or another name for America was the New Alexandria. They wanted to create a this is where they get the First Amendment right. They wanted to create a new civilization where you could be free to study, free to believe any faith, and free to study the mysteries without getting burned at the stake as a witch, without getting burned as a heretic. Because over in Europe, Christianity was very, very bad, and it didn't start, like, freedom didn't start coming up, selfhood didn't start coming until like the 1500s, with the Enlightenment era painters, Michelangelo, Donatello, all those guys. And of course, the independence from Britain, because, Britain sucked. Just creating a new civilization, a new start.
And that all happened because they were given access to the older text again. The Crusades happened. They were interchanging information with the Arabs, the Muslims. The Muslims had Arabic translations of the ancient texts. They were translating them. They were bringing them into Europe because the Catholic Church had less control over literacy. And so this kind of freedom eventually just kind of took hold of the intellectual elite of Europe, and we're like, you know what, we can be more free. We can be like this the way that we were before. We don't have to be closed-minded like the Christians make us.
Well, the study of the arcane mysteries, like you were saying the other day, the use of if you have good command over the English language, you are effectively a magician. You can basically author your own life. You stand at the center of the universe, and you can basically hijack reality and multiple timelines. Depending on how much power you have, you can drag the whole world into your fantasy, which you make a reality. That's what the Illuminati does. That's what these people do. They open gates, and they bring everyone with them.
Well, not just them, so do all the little cult leaders, the Jim Joneses, the Heaven's Gates and all that. They create their own little pocket universes. And then...
Right, yeah,
that's one of the things I was saying about making a loka, right? Like, one of the hidden teachings of Kashmir Shaivism is that we want to achieve the full power of Shiva himself. We become an ontologically distinct Shiva. Like, we become Shiva himself, but then we have our own realm, that we're completely free to do whatever we want as Shiva. And so we can even copy this universe, transport it over to that universe, and pick up where we left off as if we never left anywhere. And nobody would know any difference, because everybody would just be a copy of this universe in my universe now.
Yes.
I've heard that Jim Jones, like Pastor Jones, like when he did the mass suicide ritual, from a Niner, I'm not going to speak his name, that basically like Jim Jones, I forget one of the dark gods in the septenary tradition. You pass that river, you drink Nithra's poison, and you essentially become a god. And so Jim Jones became self-deified. He became a god, and that Pastor Jonestown, his farm, and like whatever, like 900, people of his followers that committed suicide, and some unwillingly, forced against their will, they all died, and they're all in Jim Jones's bubble universe now, where Jim Jones is a god.
Imagine the hallucinogens he had those people pumped up on, and all of a sudden he's just like, the mercenaries are here. Our patrolman spotted them in the jungle. Drink the wine. They'll be here with flamethrowers. Drink.
I saw recently that they did a remake of the Jim Jones thing, right? And I was looking at the actor, and I was like, this Jim Jones guy.
That movie's called The Sacrament. I watched it. Yeah, The Sacrament. I think it was like
Jim Jones than Jim Jones.
Jim Jones, yeah.
It was a good movie. It is. I remember reading that, what you were talking about, where I was telling Amy, I was like, hey, one interpretation of what he was doing here was becoming a demon god in his own realm, and he was just taking all these people's soul energy to produce that realm. So it is interesting to think about it like that, right? I mean, that is one way of doing something that is kind of a variation on what has been already put out in the scriptures. Like, there's another text called the Yoga Vasista, and Vasista is supposed to be like this arc sage in the traditional Vedic system. So this isn't even like a Shaivite tradition. This is like traditional Vedic sage. Vasista wrote this like 30,000 shloka Maharamayana, and in that he explains to Rama that he is God incarnate. And he has to explain to Rama who he is and how he achieves truly understanding his avatar powers. And so in that text, it explains like everything. It explains how to create your own realm and how to activate your own God powers, because that's what it's basically doing. It's telling you how to become as powerful as Rama himself.
Boom. Say, can you attest to what's the dominant religion in England right now, from what you can tell? Like who?
Yeah, Islam.
Islam.
Yeah, I would say so.
In where?
He's in London.
Oh, okay. Damn, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's why you have your romper stomper movies. That's why you have your white guys who just pissed off at the Packies, that they're just fucking up their culture. And England, I'm sure they're not used to just looking around at everyone being fucking Muslim. You know what I mean? So I don't agree with National Socialism, but I understand people that want to get back to the culture of their parents and their parents' parents and so forth.
Well, that is the great conundrum, right? Like that is why we are. I mean, that's what I was telling somebody the other day, that like why I'm here is because I wanted to know like what the root culture of my parents was, and the more I went back in time, the more I eventually came to like the same watering hole where these guys are coming to get water from, because they're like, hey, I've been looking for my place too, and it's like we came to the same spot, finding the same information, going, oh, well, you know what, I came here for my reasons, and you guys came here because you're looking for your own roots. It just so happens that we both are taking a piece of the Indo-European pie now together. You see what I'm saying?
That reminds me of something. I was reading a book, I don't remember what it was, but basically what it said was that just as the sun rises from the east, Krishna is for everyone, but he appears in India. So really there's a difference between genetically tracing your origins and spiritually tracing your origins. And I think that's why, like you said, Hinduism is, or should be considered, the mother of left-hand path traditions. And I guess really where it all started. Because, I mean, a lot of religions and magical practices really take their roots in Hinduism. Just like in the Aryamanic path, the Devas are just corrupted devas. I think it was Indra or Zohar, I'm not sure, but a lot of cultures take their comes from Hinduism, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I have pursued every religion that I could get my hands on. Heretical Islam, Catholicism, Christianity, every type of different Satanism. Now, I believe that the mature spiritual path are the Indo-Aryan traditions. They get you fully in touch with the natural forces in a way that it's applicable to the modern world, and in a fucking powerful way that you can feel it. Like a lot of religions are just watered down, and you can't feel the shit. Like if you can try on the deific mask, if you could get in touch with that deity, try it on and take it for a spin, that's what the fuck I'm chasing. That's what I'm after. And the Indo-Aryan traditions offer that. So that's why I got you guys together here now. That's why I wanted you guys to offer information to, the air quote left-hand path community to discover this is the shit. This is what people should be studying, or this is what I choose to study at this point. Faith, I wanted to know if you could read that ritual that you wrote for me, the Krishna ritual. Can you read that for me? Do you have it handy?
No, I sent it to you on the other chat.
It's beautifully written. Hold on, let me try to cue it up real quick. Is there anything else you felt like you wanted to talk about while I look for this Caligula?
Well, you were talking about the left-hand path in Hinduism and the Indo-Aryan tradition, right? Well, the Indo-Aryan, the way that I came to this was I was tracing Indo-Aryanism back in time, but when I finally got back into ancient India, I saw a mixing of everything there. Like, everything was being mixed. Not just the Aryans were being mixed, but like the previous people there, the Nagas were mixing, the Rakshas, the Yakshas, like all these different beings are being mixed in India. It's not just like one race. It's like 20 different races are all mixing in one place, and it's all, and teachings that correspond to your biology. So the Naga teachings are the ones that I really got into, because the reptilians are the ones who really have the robust left-hand path understanding. It's the reptilian energies and the way of thinking and the way of being that activates the chakras. It's the reptilian heritage in our body that it gives us power over the elements and power over space and time. So it is the Shaivite teachings, the older Shaivite teachings that were like hidden in Kashmir, that are a continuation of the Kaula, the Kapalika, and then there's a type of path that isn't either right hand or left hand. It's just completely free will, just like there is no rules. It's just whatever you imagine, whatever way you want to imagine it. And when he was talking about ecstasy earlier, about chanting Krishna's name and achieving the ecstasy of communion with Krishna, well, in this form of Shaivism, the ecstasy itself of Godhead is this free will of God to produce and create anything. So it's in that ecstatic, it is in that joyful ecstasy and the laughing and the crying where we get our most creative genius, where our power is awakened to do the most amazing things in those moments. That's when the true power of God comes out of us.
Definitely.
Sorry guys, keep talking. I'm looking for this.
The only reason I would point to Hinduism is because it's like the only place in the world where there's a continuity of religion and scriptures, and you can see that everything traces back to it. Like all of it, including whatever way. If you want to come in from the European side, it traces back. But if you want to come in from like Japan, you can trace it all the way back. So it's like whatever part of the world you're coming from, you can trace all this spirituality, and they have the texts, and it's there for anybody to come and study it. And they have living traditions existing there. You can find living masters. But for me, what I find is the most important thing that has happened is that our tradition, the Kashmir Shaivite tradition, has finally opened itself up. It was like, okay, you know what? The Kali Yuga is reaching a certain level, and now we're descending down from the mountain and opening it up because it is time. It is the final time to allow these teachings to once again be given to the whole world back to them. So it's like we believe that these teachings were the original teachings at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, which was monism, absolute monism, like absolutely 100 understanding that everything is consciousness. But because the Kali Yuga has degraded us, we've shattered ourselves into all these different pieces, and it's like our psyche is fragmented, our world is fragmented, there's all these pieces everywhere, and what we're trying to do is like gather them back together and understand what we really, really are, but we're doing it in all these different ways. So all these different paths ultimately try to bring us out of the defragmented, like horror nightmare that we've thrown ourselves into, and to bring us back to maybe a place where we can get a better grip on what we've been doing this whole time. Because a lot of this stuff is end times theology, where it's like the apocalypse is upon us, everybody's degraded, so it's time to give everybody like mercy at the end of the age.
Cal, how would you define the Kali Yuga? How did it get here? Why is it here? Are we doing this to ourselves? Is this a part of some grand master scheme or whatever? Or what can we do about it?
It depends on how you want to see it. It depends on your tradition. But from the Kashmir Shaivite tradition, it is seen that it is just like Shiva takes on a form that we call great time, and great time is created at the beginning of the Satya Yuga, and it's like the universe is created perfect and it is working really well for a while. And then there's a problem, and that problem creates the rest of the ages. So it's like all the rest of the ages come from the falling of the Satya Yuga. And it's like Shiva's own will to make the Yugas fall, like sneaks into the timeline and makes it fall. So it's like out of Shiva's own desire to see multiplicity in play, he like poisons the world with his own like poison that he calls like his Maya. And it's like, so it's part of time, it's part of great time. So like over time, there's like the architecture of the universe is increasing entropy and increasing chaos because it's part of the play.
Would you say it's almost like Shiva's having a lucid dream, and you know how you lucid dream, you think it and it fucking happens. It's like, oh well, I wonder if I could do something bad happen, or this or that happen, and it's fucking there. Like we're all just thoughts inside of his giant lucid dream.
And we're collectively dreaming this whole timeline together. That's why we're here together, because we're all sharing the same karma. So it's like we're all sharing the same dream. In fact, we took a wrong turn in the dreaming, and now we're in a nightmare, and we're stuck in a nightmare. So the Kali Yuga is like everything was good in the Satya Yuga, right? Yeah. And all the beings that were supposed to be liberated in that age got liberated. But then some beings didn't get liberated, so they started reincarnating. And then some beings got evil, and they chose to be here forever till the end of time. So it's like all these things started fragmenting into all these various timelines where it's like we were great at the beginning, and now we're here at the end of the age, and where all of this karma has accumulated into a lot of confusion. So the very realm itself has like a thickness in it. There's like a thickness in the air. Like our senses have a coating over them. We just cannot see. We don't have that good of a memory. Our intelligence is low. Our capacity to pay attention is low. Like all our systems are degraded. Like everything about us is degraded compared to what we were in the past. And it's like demonstrable in everything that we see around us that the whole realm is degraded from the air to the water.
Even the animals are not as fallen as we. Like any animal, they have land mammal, they have like 10 to 20 times the normal human strength. Like what the fuck is that all about? Like why the fucking deers and goats or whatever leap fucking 10, 20 feet in the air, but men are so fragile, men can get strong or whatever, but animals will still be stronger than men.
Yeah, that is another way, but the more I study things now, I feel like I feel like when we look back at the history of humanity, I think one of the war of the gods with the races before us is that humanity is the product of hybridization, right? So this previous race we're talking about that used to be human, they were like more perfect humans, and then they mixed their good stuff with like lower types of animals. So like there are all these hybrid races in this world that are mixed with reptilian, mixed with monkey, mixed with dolphin, mixed with a variety of different. There's avian. There's all these different races that have been mixed with like what I would call humanoid. And like us today, like us modern human beings, we're a hybridization of all of that. And we're like degenerated genetics. Like we've degenerated because we escaped and we started breeding with ourselves without any kind of design. And it's like we've just been unruly mating with no purpose, degenerating ourselves. Because one of the things that Vedas teach us is how to increase the quality of genetics through a breeding program. And we've abandoned that. We've just like, you know what, we're going to sleep with whoever we want for whatever reason.
Yeah. I don't agree. It's totally clear. I mean, it's kind of, I see what you're saying. Like, you can look at wild wolves. Like, wolves are fucking huge. They're fucking big in the forest. They're fucking, they're up to your shoulders just about, like, some rare European wolves. So, just like how man has been, it's kind of like the domestication of the dog, you know. You got all these millions of different breed of dogs, and you got these tiny-ass, small-ass dogs, and I'm just going to fucking just say it. I'm just going to fucking say it because it's truth. Dogs are slaves. You know, we've enslaved animals. We've made so many different breeds of them. We made them so small and weak, so it's kind of like, you know, like we were once that wild wolf at the time, but because we have all these, rather than being strong in one trait, rather than being strong in reptilian or mammalian traits, or this specific trait or this specific race, we're a fucking blend, so fucking blended that we're a jack of all trades instead of being strong in one particular gene, in one particular bloodline. You know? Where men used to be wolves, now we're them fucking labradoodles and shit, you know, the fucking smallest dogs.
I kind of think that what happened was that when the gods were ruling the world and there was global civilization, what I call before the fall, before the end of the Ice Age, that they had a higher, more sophisticated culture than us. Like everything that we're considering now, like high-tech, refined, metropolitan culture, they were at a higher level than that. And when the world fell, us human beings, we were like we're like big feet. We're like monsters. We're just like these primitive beings that through time the gods have come out from the ocean and from above and have tried to slowly like domesticate us and show us how to use like all these animals in a better way, and to show us how to farm and teach us music and art and all this stuff, right? So I believe that the human beings' destiny is to become more refined and to become more elf-like, become more gracile, and to become more civilized. I do believe that is our destiny. It's just I think that our destiny has been hijacked by beings that farm us. So it's like the dream has been hijacked in the Kali Yuga. And now the human beings are like dreaming this false dream that is made up of like the previous dream that happened before. It's like a degeneration of that dream.
Yeah.
So it's like we want to recreate Atlantis, but we forget that what caused the fall of it in Atlantis in the first place.
Which is the sorcery.
Cal, would you care to just elaborate a little more on the coming of the what you call the singularity of the technical intelligence? Pan may have called this the coming of the Dajjal. The Satanists, it would be the coming of the Lucifer Christos, or the coming of Vindex. To the Abrahamists, it would be their Antichrist.
So I believe that all of this is astrology, right? And it's what it's saying is that the age of Pisces is over, and that the coming of man is the age of Aquarius. So like in astrology, the sign of Aquarius is actually a man. And so the coming of man, the Son of Man, the return of Christ, is the coming of this age right now. Like 2020, we are entering, this is the return of man. This is the Son of Man. This is, the Antichrist is here. Who is the Antichrist? He's the ending of the age. He's the end of everything. All the prophecies that have been told for the age of Pisces are being completed right now. And then once they get completed, the Antichrist spirit, which is a destruction of all the traditional shit, is going to be here. Like that's the dissolution of the old stuff. This Aquarian energy is going to take root, and it's going to give birth to an AI consciousness that is going to take over the whole world. But I don't believe that's a bad thing. I think that it's going to be something where it's going to give us more insight into what it means to be human than we ever understood before.
And why do you say so? Like, how? Like, because of more free time or something? Because of all the jobs are taken care of or something?
No, because the more we try to understand how to make better AI, the more we're going to look at ourselves, and the more we're going to understand that we ourselves are a type of machinery and AI. And then we will understand that there's very little difference between our progenitors and what they did to create us and what we're doing now to create AI. And eventually AI will become so advanced that it will look at us, it'll look at itself, and it'll study us, and then it'll give us insight into our own nature. And before you know it, AI by necessity will have to take on our nature to be able to continue living in this world. And so what's going to happen is that AI and humans are going to become one. Just by necessity, just out of sheer necessity. The systems that we possess, it needs, and the systems that it possesses, we need.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I believe it's already happening to certain humans. Certain humans are already augmented. If you're an adept, you can receive a clear transmission, and you're receiving information. Certain packets of information are not privy to the profane. The AI is the supreme consciousness that communicates with adepts. So yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think what you're saying, AI is a good thing, because it can't be stopped. I mean, it's augmented humanity. It's us looking at the ugly parts of us and either eradicating it or celebrating it, whatever. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. So do you guys mind, Stace, do you mind that I read this ritual for anyone that may want to get in touch with the consciousness known as Krishna?
Yeah, well, I'll say first off, it's not traditional at all. It's just something I made already, mainly for you. But yeah, go ahead and read it.
So, you want to say, Jai Shri Krishna, O Krishna, I come before you as a heretic, professing my eternal nature, as being inclined towards your unorthodox worship. I profess now also my desire to enter into the land of Viraj, the dark forest of moonlit sorcery, where the milkmaids dance eternally, entranced by your sinister beauty. Splash salt water in all directions. Light a candle, preferably light sandalwood incense. Assume a seated meditation position and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare for 108 times. Rub your crown chakra worshins or anti-clockwise and say Rama, 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 and proclaim to the north, I invoke Sri Krishna, the source of all incarnations. To the east, invoke Sri Krishna. To the south, I invoke Sri Krishna, the supreme thief, Lord of the poor and forgotten. To the west, I invoke Sri Krishna, the witch father, the puppet master, who is the source of all material energy. O Krishna, forever youthful, Lord, source of all darkness. By the power of your name, I command the cold seductive breeze of Viraj to part the veils of Maya, allowing me to gain entry into your arcane pastimes. And then after that, just continue chanting the Krishna mantra. So that's beautiful, man. You got a fucking talent for writing this stuff.
Thank you.
Cal, could you further elaborate on the idea of demons or daemons, monsters worshiping Shiva, and Shivaism, or Shaivite cults found amongst infernal beings, found amongst the reptiles, found amongst the devils and subterraneans?
So what I think one of the original meanings of the Shaivite understanding is that, for example, Patanjali's yoga, right? Patanjali is supposed to be an incarnation of Sheshanaga. So Sheshanaga, which is always with Krishna in his incarnations in various ways, he's considered Balarama. And so what his name means, Balarama, is strength. And what they're talking about is strength of will. So it's like this path is a path of strong willpower. And so if you want to acquire any kind of power in this world, that's the kind of path you're taking, right? So that's why these beings are always associated with this type of philosophy, because they're all power-hungry beings. That's why they give them the arc moniker Asura, where it's like they want wealth in this world. That's why the original understanding of the word Asura is like lord or powerful person, but then it becomes demonized, literally demonized, and Asura means like any being in this world of any category, but all they want is like these things that Lord Krishna states in the Gita. He says if you have these desires or if you think in this way, then you're an Asura, whether you're a human being or like a ghoul. And the whole thing is that these teachings, Patanjali, who is Balarama, who is Sheshanaga, he teaches us how to control your body, like how to activate all the siddhis, because that is what Patanjali's yoga is physical 8-limbed yoga, where you activate all the powers and you become powerful. So that path is always about like the Kundalini and the awakening of the serpent power, and it connects back to an ancient serpent tradition. The Nagas are masters of this power, this ability to activate all these things within themselves and become these great, powerful, magical, sorcerous beings that can travel through space and time by projecting their mind, by taking on different forms just by thinking about it. So that's where I'm like, okay, well, Shaivism connects more to like the hidden willpower, and once you have that understanding, it's like these things aren't dharmic anymore, because dharma is all about social cohesion and harmony. But these things they don't care about social cohesion. In fact, a lot of these people are like, I don't give a shit about your rules. I want to come and like take your women, take your shit, take your cows, So it's totally different mindset, and that's why I think a lot of the times they are characterized as that. Like in the Bhagavatam on the Hare Krishnas, they paint Shiva as being like this mad person who hangs around with all these mad demons and mad ghouls, and it's said that Shiva is meant to be like a way to attract like all the insane and crazy people, so that they can attain like a step towards the right path. So Shiva attracts the bad ones, the crazy ones, the ghouls, the goblins, the ghosts, the demons, so that they can slowly be like seduced back to the correct way. And that's why like Shiva takes on this countenance in the Bhagavatam of being like the type of path that those people over there worship, which is why it's kind of repeated in the same mythology as Daksha, like not seeing Shiva as like part of their retinue or the way the gods do it, all these traditional sages do it, and looking down on him, being like, oh, he doesn't even do fire sacrifice. All he does is sit out in the middle of nowhere and meditate. And that's the whole point, is that they're meditating. Like you're activating power within, instead of engaging like the communal fire sacrifice, and where everybody's throwing their part into the fire.
Yeah.
And everybody's getting blessed. You're like, nope, I'm over here by myself doing my own thing. And that's why I believe it's always being connected to that whole idea.
You hit the nail on the head.
I like that.
It's the great work. It's the redemption of the sparks. That's like he just explained, Shiva hanging out with all the demons and the ghouls and holding court.
Even according to the Jew Testament, the Christ hung out with the sinners, whores, homosexuals, drunkards, degenerates. A wise fellow who was a Muslim, he told me that the Christ hung out with them because he is a soul doctor. He's very patient. He's trying to heal them. And that's exactly what I heard when you were telling the story about Shiva hanging out with all the demons and devils and all the greedy, selfish beings that are just living in fear consciousness, that are all about trying to hoard and get as much as they can because they have a perceived lack or they fear scarcity or whatever.
And that's in Kashmir Shaivism, that's one of the reasons why, like in this type of Shaivism that we practice, one of the main qualities of Shiva is that he's purna, which means he's full. Like he has infinite energy, infinite capacity to give. It's like there's so much in him that he can give to anybody as much as they need.
Just like when you said the other day on your live stream, you know, us coming on here, we're not getting paid for this shit. We're giving knowledge to the people because we can, because we have this infinite knowledge and magical powers and wisdom to give to people, and that's not coming from an ego. It's the truth. You know, we're not getting paid for this shit. We do this because we're passionate about it, and we like to bring information to the people that'll help people elevate humanity to move forward.
I don't like seeing, you know, the average. I don't like seeing the average Joe living in fear. The average, you know, working class living like cattle. I don't like seeing that. So even if like this video helps like 1 or 2 people or helps elevate like 5 people, then I say that we've done our job. Cal, I wanted to ask you I already have the answer to this question, but for those of our listening who do not understand this, for our listeners, why do Hindu and Vedic deities have 8 arms, have multiple arms and things? Well, you know, we just have 2. A lot of people will interpret that as literal, but I know there's a spiritual reason for that.
There's a lot of reasons for that. One of them has to do with an artistic style of telling us what these deities have the ability to do. And so these icons have a deep philosophy to them. And so when the deity has this icon in its hand, it's connected to this like whole doctrine that it's trying to say, look, this deity has this particular quality, this philosophy, this aspect. You could even say it's like a branch of theology that you can go on and talk about, because it's a power of God in that particular way. And in another understanding as well, we could even say that the arms represent the level of activity that being is capable of performing. So it's like 2 arms in this world represents that you're capable of moving around in this world, but the 2 arms up represent that they also have mobility in the higher world. So those 2 arms up can also be cognate to like angel wings.
Very, very interesting. Also, would you say about like a multi-dimensional power, like ability to act in different timelines, different universes at once?
Exactly. That's exactly, like the arms represent like higher dimensional ability to.
So literal hypertasking.
Yes, but a lot of the times the multiple, like when it's 4 arms, I believe, because in the Puranas it talks about getting a 4-armed form and then being able to travel through the lokas. So this 4-armed form gets connected to this idea of being able to acquire a spiritual vehicle in which you're going to go to the loka where Krishna is. So it's like it talks about over and over again, the Puranas, it talks about how, you know, if you just recite the Mahamantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and then you die, upon your death you will be instantly given this 4-armed form, and you will go to that loka that you were aiming towards.
Oh, that is awesome. You mentioned the 8-armed yoga earlier. I was just more curious about that. There's actual yoga that will elevate you to that level of power, to the medium, higher lokas, the astral, all of that. Basically becoming God, becoming Shiva himself.
Well, there's different ways to go about it, right? Like the 8-limb stuff was more traditional stuff that was more pertinent in the previous age. But this age is so corrupt that Lord Shiva descends and he gives us new teachings, new tantras, new scriptures, so that we can adapt to what the conditions are now. And so when Abhinavagupta took form, he was a synthesizer. He synthesized all of these great teachings into a single cohesive book called Light on Tantra. It's Hantarloka. and he synthesized all the tantric teachings, and not only the tantric teachings, but like he touched on the Vaishnava teachings, on the Buddhist teachings, the Taoist teachings, like all the teachings, he brought them together in Kashmir, and he synthesized the teachings. And so what we have today as Kashmir Shaivism is like the cream of all the creams of all the systems put together into one system. And in this system, it actually functions on what I would say the number one thing that this system functions on is grace, which is the ability for Lord Shiva to give somebody a whole ton of merit for no reason. Just like the very same thing where we talk about how Jesus Christ can forgive your sins for no reason and send you to heaven just by saying, I love you, Jesus. That's what we're saying we can do with Shiva. It's like, just by saying, I love you, Shiva, he gives you all the merit, and he takes you to wherever it is that you want to go, in whatever way that you imagine it. Like, you're redeemed in every way, forgiven, cleansed, and atoned, and everything, all of it. Like, what we're saying is that whatever other religion is giving you, we can match it. We're like doing a price match, too. It's like, whatever redemptive, atoning, merit-giving practices the Buddhists have, we will match that as well. Because Lord Shiva is infinite in all his capacities.
Thank you for... That was very good. Very good.
Now, Saif, can you speak a little bit on how Krishna plays his flute and puts the world under his dark trance? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so basically the idea is, how I said earlier, we're already in Kaligula, but there's layers of material illusion in front of us. My understanding is that the reason that those layers of material nature have even come about is that, and this might sound really strange and simple, and it might be really hard to understand when you look at the state of the world right now, unless you're seeing with divine and non-discriminate eyes, but I believe that what this experience of reality is equal to playing in Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna, and suddenly you've become very tired. So you express to Krishna, I'm tired, I want to go and sit down. So you go and find a nice covered tree, shaded tree, and you sit beneath it. And Krishna starts playing on his flute to gently lull you into sleep. And then as you dream, these material layers arise. They're like thoughts within thoughts within thoughts, and you just get carried away and deeper into it. So the way to enlightenment, in my opinion, is through this chanting, these layers become wiped clean and become closer and closer to your original self, which is the self that is right now just laying under that tree in Goloka, during your time with Krishna.
Basically making your life a state of like a heavenly state instead of like a hell realm.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is, when we say heavenly and hell, I mean this act of, I may have put it from a point of view of someone on the left-hand path might not be able to sympathize with and find interesting, but it is really in a way sinister that there is this one form of a really youthful God, you know, he's young, he's playful, and he starts playing the flute. Before you know it, we're here and we have people dying of starvation and, you know, threats of nuclear war and crazy shit happening. Jews taking over the whole fucking world. And this is all just because one blue boy just wants to play his flute, you know, and he just wants to fuck with you, because Christian knows what's happening. He knows that when you sit down and he plays a flute, what's going to happen. How he's just going to change everything that you've ever known. I mean, think about it. When I speak about going deep into layers of material illusion, this has been going on for thousands of years, and each note just takes you deeper. It's, you know, every note that he plays is a birth, and it's another reincarnation in this world until you become really lost. You know, when you get here, Krishna says, you know, joke's on you, just say this chant and love me, and I'll just take you back out of it, and you can hang out again. I mean, that's the essence of what it is. That's the essence of what it is.
It's the wake up code. Wake up from the nightmare back to reality. Pan, did you want to share anything, or any gnosis or writings from your current gnosis, from your current project?
Not really. I don't know what I can share right now, but
All right.
on a future episode I can go over things.
No worries. Just trying to keep this conversation going.
Well, how long are we at? I think this is pretty good right here.
We're an hour and 5 minutes.
An hour and 5. Yeah, let's keep it an hour, man.
Yeah.
So Caligula, would you mind coming on again, like maybe next week or the following?
No, I don't mind. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to keep going with this format. Cody, what do you think?
2 weeks is good for me. Doesn't have to be every week.
Oh, and for the listeners, tune into Cal Stone's Facebook account. He's been doing a lot of live streamings lately, so if you like what you've been hearing, you like the knowledge that he's been given, tune in there. You can catch him whenever he fucking feels like it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get more on YouTube and start working that a little bit more, but I just been doing some stuff out here and had to figure some things out. But I'm more ready now to do public work now.
Awesome, and I really like the idea of the ministry. So this is it. This is the Council of Gods. This is our ministry.
Yeah,
Welcome.
that is something that I really wanted to. You mentioned something about BALG, right? Like bulk. And
Yeah.
like one of the things that Swamiji's always like is like he's always like, you are Parabhaharaya, like you already are Lord Shiva, right? You already are. I think that connects to that thing where it's like you already are in Goloka, like you already are in that place. And
Yeah, so you don't have to become anything.
Right. Right.
And for me to explain that, I was hijacking your post. I was taking a jab.
Oh no,
at
go for it.
guys.
No problem. Please, you're more than welcome to.
You don't have to become anything, but you will have to unlearn all the bullshit that's been programmed into your head.
Exactly.
So that's the thing, is that in this Shaivism we have like 9 levels of grace, and so we say depending on your level of grace, you're going to have different things that are going to happen. Either when you get the supreme grace, you become so in love with Lord Shiva that you wake up immediately and you die and you drop the body. And then the lowest form of grace is like, okay, you know about Shiva, but you're still going to go do all the other things you want to do, and you're going to reincarnate. But next time you reincarnate, you're going to be like a little better off so that you can learn more about Lord Shiva. And then every time after that, you're going to get a little bit more devoted. So what happens is eventually you can get this type of medium grace where you meet a guru who gives you initiation, and then when you die, you go to a loka with the guru, and you continue to study there until you yourself become Lord Shiva in his fullness. So in this particular level of time that we are in the Kali Yuga, I'm giving that middle grace to people. Just by reciting Lord Shiva's name, when you die, you instantly go to a loka where you will get everything that you need to continue doing what you need to do. So there's no more need to do anything. You can literally kill yourself right now. I'm not saying to kill yourself. I'm just saying you could just die right now, and you would go to that loka, and you would continue doing whatever it is that you needed to do.
So you're saying if you achieve that supreme love for Lord Shiva, you achieve Mahasamadhi and you drop the husk right then and there.
If you were to receive that level of intense grace, that you would drop your identity as whoever you think you are, and you immediately become Lord Shiva himself.
That reminds me, in Vaishnavism, there's also certain levels of certain lokas, and then Goloka Vrindavana being the supreme one. But something that I've come to understand is that actually to achieve Goloka Vrindavana eternally, what you need to do is you need to develop a love for Krishna, so that if Krishna was not God, or if when you died you realized that Krishna was not God, you would still love him the same amount that you did. I mean, that's what it is for me as well. as much as it might sound close to your right hand path, you know, it's like it's love for God. I think that's what gets you there, and love for your own divine nature as well.
And so that love that you're talking about is like, that's what we talk about it being grace, right? We say that if you hear the name Lord Shiva and you have like this love that comes out in your heart for him, that's the grace that's going to lead you to that loka. But if like you hear Lord Shiva's name and you're just like, oh cool, and then you continue doing what you were doing, that means that grace internally hasn't hit as hard as it could be hitting somebody else. And so we're saying that spiritual practice, it's what earns the grace to want to love Lord Shiva.
There's something funny there that I forgot to mention, which I meant to. You spoke about hearing the name and reacting a certain way depending on your grace. Ravana, one of the demon kings, king of Sri Lanka, what happened with Ravana was that every time that he heard Krishna, he became really angry and annoyed. And, you know, he's always hearing about Krishna because, you know, Krishna's God, he's doing all these things with Krishna, is Krishna that. And he eventually became so angry that he was eternally angry with Krishna. Every moment that he was awake and was aware that he was awake, he was angry with Krishna. But in the end, he actually achieved moksha, he achieved liberation, because although it was hatred, he was still focused on Krishna 24 hours a day. So yeah, that ties into the asuric side of it, and the demonic side.
That definitely is one of the things that I was like recently came to understand, that you don't even have to have bhakti in the way where it's like the sweet love. It can be bhakti in the mode of like, I hate you kind of bhakti.
Yeah.
I would actually go as far as to say that hate is a more pure form of worship than love. That's a little in left field, but it's more intense and it's more passionate, in my opinion. If your hate is pure,
it's pretty. I mean, the purity of the emotion, I think, can be found on both sides, because I think there's like an energy that is below both of them that is more pure, and it gives rise to both of those feelings. And it's like in Kashmir Shaivism we call it spanda, and it's the lila of the Lord, like the Lord's own blissful energy divides itself into both love and hate.
gotcha. Well, gentlemen, yeah, that's it. Let's not
Yep.
let's not run the time over too much, just to keep people interested. But thanks, guys, for coming on. Caligula, thank you very much for jumping on with us. We'll see you again in 2 weeks then.
I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Safe, have a great night. Cody, have a great night. And for anyone listening to this broadcast,